Hi, welcome back to the Distressed Princess. Today is episode 5 of my Christmas crafting series, and it's all about those Christmas signs, and you don't even need a Cricut to make them. For the first one, which happens to be my favorite one out of the group, well, I think it's my favorite one, you'll need some Crayola Model Magic that you can get at either, oh gosh, there's probably multiple places to get it, but I got mine at the Dollar General store, but I have seen it at the Dollar Tree before, and I'm sure Walmart carries it as well. So all you need, though, is just one package, so $1 ought to do it. And what it is air dry clay, and this is my very first time ever trying to use it, so you're learning along with me. I'm using a rolling pin to roll it out a little flatter, and I'm going to make a gingerbread man. And I don't know how well this stores. I just rolled this excess back up into a ball and put it in a sandwich bag with all the air kind of pushed out of it, so maybe it won't dry out. I don't know if it'll work or not, but I hope so, because this was really fun rolling out this little dough. Now I'm going to transfer the gingerbread man onto a paper plate, and I'm using a little spatula tool that I got at the Dollar Tree. Now I'm going to leave that to dry overnight. While my gingerbread is drying, now I'm going to work on the frame. I want this frame to be red, and so I'm really glad that this is the kind of frame from the Dollar Tree that you can just pop out the back. You can paint the frame whatever color you need it to be, and you don't have to disassemble a whole bunch of stuff, and nothing breaks while you're trying to take it apart. And so I'm just going to use some Apple Barrel red acrylic paint. And I quickly found out that this is one of those frames from the Dollar Tree that doesn't want to take paint very well. So what you need to do is rough it up a little bit. Use some sandpaper. I'm using a sanding block, but rough up the edges of that frame. It doesn't take very much. And make sure that you get all of the sanding dust blown away, and then your paint will stick. I put 2 coats of the red paint, and I did all around all the edges and sides. Next, you'll work on the backing of the sign, and what you want is just a plain white background. So you'll have to remove the paper that's on this backing. Then I used my sanding block to sand off the rest of that paper that didn't want to come unstuck. Looks don't really matter. What you're going for is smoothness. So just make sure that it's as smooth as you can get it. And this little guy has been such a wonderful purchase. It's in my Amazon store, which is linked in my description box below. It's a little ladybug vacuum cleaner, and it's perfect for all these little messes when you're crafting. And it's surprisingly powerful. Now for painting the background, and what else but Rust-Oleum chalked in linen white. And to make the surface as smooth as we can, I went over it just lightly with a sanding block. This is my gingerbread man after he sat out all night. He's still just a little bit squishy, so I'm trying to be really careful with him. I think the package said it would be completely dry in 24 hours, but it's not really been 24 hours. It's really just been overnight, so I'm trying to be very careful with him. but I'm going to paint him, and I'm using Apple Barrel acrylic paint in chestnut. I didn't worry about painting the back of this gingerbread man because he's going to be glued onto our sign, but I did make sure that all around his fat little chubby arms and legs and his head, all the edges were completely covered in that brown paint. When the brown paint is dry, then it's time to decorate him. And I'm using this 3D fabric paint that you get at the Dollar Tree. I'm going to use all three colors, white, black, and red, to make his little trimmings, his eyes, and buttons. I don't remember what the package said about drying time, if it was 24 hours or 72. Either way, I never wait the entire time. I put him aside to dry, and then I came back to him just a little bit later. You'd probably be wise to just go ahead and wait the entire drying time. I'm just really, really impatient. So I'm just trying to be very gentle with him so that the paint doesn't get touched, and I'm going to go on with my project. Next part being the lettering, and as promised, no Cricut required. I'm just going to hand letter some words onto this sign, and I'm using this red Sharpie ultra fine tip pen, and I'm going to do that tall, skinny, Ray Dunn-ish font because I think that it is just the easiest thing to duplicate. Then I had a sudden idea to put some Scotch tape down. I guess you could use painter's tape. Put some kind of tape down to try to keep your lettering straight. And lastly, hot glue your gingerbread man to the sign, this time making sure he is completely dry because you don't want to hang him up and then have the paint all run. If he's not completely dry, then keep him laying flat until he is. Check out the link in my description box to shop in my Amazon store, where you'll find all my favorite craft supplies and home decor items on a budget. For the next sign, I'm using this cute Playroom sign that I actually got at Kohl's on clearance for only $2.99. So when you're shopping around and you see nice framed things like this, definitely pick them up if they're cheap. I wanted this sign to be a greenish blue color, which I don't already have a paint already made up like that. So I'm going to have to mix some paints. So I mixed together my Moss Waverly chalk paint with some white acrylic paint, and then I threw in some aqua blue craft paint and mixed it all up until I was happy with the color. I only painted the outside of the frame with this blue-green color because I want the inside part of the frame to be white. And of course I used my Rust-Oleum chalked in linen white for the white inside. So my first idea was to use this image and the Mod Podge technique to try to transfer this image onto the sign. I've done this a couple of times in the past with sort of success, but not completely. So I thought maybe this time I would get it for sure. So you can watch and see what happens. My paint was completely dry. I covered the center area in Mod Podge. I put the image ink side down, pressed it all out, no air bubbles, no wrinkles, and then I left it to dry. I came back to it the next morning with a slightly wet foam brush and I dampened the paper like they say to do, and then I rubbed the paper with my fingers and it just became a nasty mess. I don't understand what I'm doing wrong with this, but see how the ink is all bleeding, and not so much really on the wreath part, but on the black wording. The ink was bleeding really bad, and I'm trying to be really careful not to rub everything off. I just don't know what I'm doing wrong, but yeah. In the end, the paper peels off, and in places it transferred the ink and in places it didn't. It's just not consistent and it's just a mess. So here is take 2 and idea number 2. I repainted over that mess and now I'm going to use this same image, which if you guys are a fan of the image, I will link this in my description box if I can, and you can use it for whatever projects you might have in mind. But this time I'm not going to use the wreath. I'm going to make an actual wreath. All I'm going to use are the words, and the way that I'm going to transfer it this time is with the pencil method. So just darken in the back side of the words with your ordinary lead pencil, and then put it down where you want it on your sign and trace over those words, and voila, you have words transferred to a sign. Then just darken in your words using a black Sharpie. Now I'm going to make a wreath, an actual wreath. Since our paper one just was not working out, an actual wreath is probably going to be cuter anyway, right? So I'm going to use some floral wire and I'm going to wrap it around my Mod Podge bottle about 5 times, and this is going to give us the circular wreath shape. I had to pull it out just a little bit because it was sort of too small to be a wreath around these words, so I made it a little bit bigger and then I twisted it all in place. Then I plucked and cut some pieces of greenery off of this floral stem from the Dollar Tree, and then I'm going to use more of that floral wire to wire the greenery onto the little wreath form that we made. And if I ran across any places where the little branch wanted to stick out like this one, then I just hot glued it to the next one. And once I had this little wreath made, then I realized I'm liking this even better than my first idea anyway. And if this wreath wasn't cute enough, I cutie pied it up some more with a couple of tiny pine cones. And to hang the wreath, I'm using some of this farmhouse ribbon from the Dollar Tree. I'm just going to loop it around the wreath and I'm going to hot glue it all down in place. Oh, and I did fold over the top part of the ribbon and hot glued it together so that it would have a nice finished edge. And I was so glad that I stuck with this one and didn't give up because I'm in love with the outcome. Now here's one that is really super duper simple. It's using this chalkboard sleigh that you get at the Dollar General store, and I'm using some wall stickers. Now you may or may not want to paint your chalkboard. I'm painting mine white because it will make my stickers show up better. But let's say you were using white snowflake stickers. That would be really cute on a black background. So I would say leave it as is. But since I did paint my sled, then I wanted to go over it with a sanding block lightly to smooth out all those brush strokes. Then it's just a matter of figuring out where all you want to place your stickers. I thought it was looking kind of plain, and so what do I do in that situation? I'm going to make a messy bow. I cut a big stack of all of these different ribbons with different sizes, some longer, some shorter, and then I just start crisscrossing them. It should look something like this by the time you're done stacking them all up, and then cut another length of any one of the ribbons and tie them all together. Then fluff your bow all out and hot glue it to the top center of the sled. If it was any quicker or easier than that, then it would have been store-bought. Here's another super simple, really quick and easy sign. It's using one of the Dollar Tree Farmhouse calendars and a dry erase board. Just cut down that calendar so that the hole at the top is cut off and there's no jaggedy edges from tearing it out of the calendar, and you're going to stick it down to the back side of that dry erase board. I'm using the back side because if I used the front side, that design would shine through the calendar and you don't want that. To stick it down, I'm going to use some double-sided tape that I got from the Dollar Tree, and I'm doing this because if you use Mod Podge or glue, then there's a tendency for those calendar numbers to shine through the front side of the page, and you definitely don't want that on your sign. So you can either use this double-sided tape, or you can use maybe a glue stick around the edges, or one of those glue tape dispensers, which I really like those, but I'm all out. I need to get some more. You have a couple of options what you want to do with the sides here. You could just cut them off, but I went the route to try to blend them in. So I'm using some white chalk paint, and then I'm going to blend in a couple of different colors of brown to try to make the edges blend in a little better. And you'll see that I take some of that brown paint and I actually paint it right across the whole design to try to make it look as seamless as I can. Now the front side's looking pretty good, but remember the back side is still that design on the dry erase board, which if you're just making this for yourself, you might not care. But if you were making this to give as a gift, then you'll want the back side to look really nice too. So I'm just using some of this wrapping paper that I'm not sure really where I got it. It might have been the Dollar General store, but it's like the brown craft paper type of wrapping paper. It's my favorite to use. It's so farmhouse country. So my method is just to put some hot glue on the back side of whatever I'm covering, stick it right down on the paper, and then I'll trim around it. And I'm really loving this plaid craft paper with this mason jar design. It's so cute together, don't you think? Now to make a hanger, I just hot glued a piece of jute string down, and then I covered those blobs of hot glue with some more of that pretty craft paper. This project makes me so happy I was able to get my hands on one of those farmhouse calendars. For this one, you'll need this collage size picture frame from the Dollar Tree, and then this smaller 4x4 size picture frame also from the Dollar Tree. You can use this gray check baby blanket from the Dollar Tree, or you can use whatever fabric you have that you might like. And you'll need this printout, which I will try to leave a link in my description box below. But if you cannot print this out, a holiday greeting card would be really cute in here too. The first thing I'm going to do is take apart this smaller picture frame, and it actually has two pieces of glass in it. It's like one of those floating picture frames. It's really neat for the Dollar Tree. So I'm going to take this apart and I'm going to put the printout inside. The next thing you need to do is take apart the larger picture frame, and you're going to take everything out, including the glass, and you're going to cover the cardboard backing with the fabric. And I cut my piece of fabric using my cutting mat and one of those rotary cutting tools from the Dollar Tree, and I just cut my material right around the cardboard backing. Then hot glue the material to the backing. Then replace your frame and add the glass piece to the back because you want something more significant than just the cardboard for the backing. Then hot glue the smaller picture to the larger picture. For the hanger on the back, I'm using jute string, and this time I'm using duct tape to hold it in place. I made this one just for me. I think it's going to go in my cozy winter bedroom. Now let's take a look back at our 5 Christmas DIY signs. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, give me a big thumbs up. That really helps my video spread so that other people can see it. And if you want to watch more of my DIY videos, just click the link that I've provided for you here, and I'll see you next time. Bye!